In this lesson, I wanted to talk briefly about assembling reference and inspirational material. Perhaps you have a good idea of what kind of sculpture you'd like to do, what kind of character, or maybe you're not so sure. You have some vague notion of the style of character you want to do. In any case, it's really helpful to assemble reference images and place them in a folder on your computer. Inspirational images can be gleaned from any source. That could be movies, it could be comics, anime, art, sculpture. It really doesn't matter, and it doesn't have to be exactly what you have in mind. It could be just a feeling you get from a specific image that you want to somehow try to capture into your artwork. For this class, I'm going to be sculpting a demon as a demonstration character. So I've assembled some images that help me get into my inner demon and get inspired. So these can be drawn from any source. They could be masks. They could also be things like gargoyles that you might find on the corners of churches and whatnot. So these were the artist interpretation type photos I looked for. However, I also feel it's really important to find real world examples of whatever might be closest to the type of character you're about to create. For example, if your character is humanoid, I do recommend studying a little bit of anatomy. I know that might seem daunting, but a little will go a long way. So a good place to start is with the human skeleton, specifically the skull in this case, since we're just sculpting a head and shoulders. But look for references of real faces. They have great expressions and wrinkles and other details you can draw from. Also important is the animal kingdom. There's wonderful reference out there and can serve as inspiration as well. For example, gorillas are great inspiration. They can be turned into monsters pretty easily, since they can look pretty ferocious. So do a little homework. Just go on the internet and grab whatever inspires you. It doesn't matter how close it is going to be to your final sculpture, and just assemble them in a folder and look them over. And when you're ready, meet me in the next lesson. What I like to do before I begin any project is to assemble a bunch of reference and or inspiration photos. So in this case, I'm going to be doing a demo of a demon for this class. So I went through the internet and looked up various demon imagery, and you can pull inspiration from any source. Like in this case, what you're seeing on the screen here is obviously a little more abstract painting, but I liked the silhouette it had, and so I pulled that down. So as I go through my list that I assembled, here's something from World of Warcraft. I thought they were very cool. Ogres or trolls in the movie. I might not be doing specifically any of these types of horns, but I like the expression and the feeling it had. And this is an example of a mask, a demonic mask. I thought had some cool details and feelings in it. And here's another mask. I liked its teeth and some aspects, like its furrowed brow. Another cool painting. Sometimes you just might like the feeling of something, and you want to capture it, but not capture specifics about it. This is from an old 50s horror movie. It's a pretty cool demon monster. So these are good to just get the juices flowing. You might have something very specific you want to copy. In this case, you want to do for this class that you're following me along on. You could have your own reference ideas, or you can follow me a little more step by step. It's up to you, obviously, but it's always good to be inspired by something and to draw from a bunch of different sources. So here are some of the ones I just went through and I liked. I really liked the smile on this guy. It had a very sinister feel to it. And while I think it's great to draw from other people's artwork as a starting point and inspiration, I also feel it's very important to draw from nature to help you out with the more realistic details. Because if you're just copying somebody else's interpretation of something, then it's like a Xerox copy twice removed. You want to add something that comes from the real world, I feel, to help make it more believable and also make it more your own. Like I thought for my demon, I might have something of an ape-like quality to it, maybe in its nose. So I went and pulled some of these images of various chimps. Chimps are a great reference. They have wonderful wrinkles, like you could see around the eyes here. And they're close to human, but you could easily see them as being monsters too. Like with those great canines they have. So also make an effort to do a bit of that type of reference research as you're coming up with an idea for your sculpture. Equally important is also to have an anatomical reference of whatever as closely resembles the creature you're going after. In this case, I'm thinking of a demon, but it's also going to be somewhat humanoid. So it always helps to have a little bit of anatomical knowledge. Now, don't worry, you're not going to be quizzed on any of this. But even when you're creating something fantastical, just pull up reference images of anatomy of whatever type of real world animal is close to it. And so in this case, I also pulled an image of an ape skull, which again is great. You can really see their teeth and the flatter head. That's something I can incorporate into the demon design. And here's a front view of a skull. So these are good to see the teeth and how they're laid out. Here's a profile of a skull. So it might seem maybe initially boring at first, but it'll go a long way to help making your sculptures more believable. I also knew that I wanted my demon to have an expression. So it's probably going to be something like a snarl. So again, going back to the real world, I pulled up images of people making sneers or snarls. And they're great because obviously you can see what the mouth is doing. You can see wrinkles around the brow, the nose. Here's a close-up of a mouth making that expression. And I also pulled up animals. So it's also helpful to gather real-world information. Like I could see what kind of wrinkles are happening around the muzzle. We could take inspiration from these teeth. We don't have to make them more human in terms of what kind of the character you're making. You can make them more look like a lion's mouth. I love this guy's expressions, very menacing. Here's another great one from obviously a human, and you can see what's happening around the eyes. You get these wrinkles, the crow's feet, and the furrow of the brow. So again, to reiterate, just make sure you can find some real-world reference like that too. So once you've gathered up your inspiration material, it's finally time to dive into the actual sculpting. So let's get going.